Sir, my mother didn't come home last night. The little black boy, only 7 years old, shivered in the snow as he held the hand of the richest man in town. Marcus Coleman, CEO of Coleman Industries, had found the boy crying outside the gates of his mansion during a storm that had paralyzed the city. "What's your name, kid?" Marcus asked, covering the child with his Italian wool coat as they walked toward the car. "Isaiah, sir. Isaiah Washington." The small voice struggled against the biting wind. "My mom works at your factory. She always comes home before breakfast, always." Marcus felt something cold in his stomach that had nothing to do with the weather. Coleman Industries had 17 factories in the region, but only 3 operated night shifts. What if an employee had disappeared without him knowing? "What's your mother's name?" "Diana Washington. Everyone calls her Dee." The name wasn't familiar, but Marcus knew he knew less than 5% of his 15,000 employees. During the 20-minute drive to the chemical processing plant in the industrial district, Isaiah told him how his mother always arrived at 6 in the morning, how she made pancakes on Sundays, and how she had promised never to leave him alone. The factory was operating normally when they arrived. Lights on, constant movement, the acrid smell of chemicals mixed with the steam from melting snow. Marcus didn't usually make unscheduled visits, especially not during the early morning shift. "Mr. Coleman." The night supervisor, a short, nervous man named Peterson, almost tripped when he saw them. "We weren't expecting. Is there a problem?" "I'm looking for an employee. Diana Washington. Where is she?" Peterson blinked rapidly, looked at Isaiah, then back at Marcus. "Well, sir, there was an incident last night." "What kind of incident?" "She was caught stealing supplies from the warehouse. Expensive chemicals. We called security, she resisted arrest and, well, force was necessary to restrain her. She's being held in the security room." Marcus looked at Isaiah, who had begun to cry silently. Something didn't add up. A single mother stealing industrial chemicals? Products that had no resale value to the average person? "I want to see the security footage. Now." Peterson hesitated. "Sir, it's internal protocol. HR is already handling the situation." At that moment, Marcus noticed something in Peterson's eyes. It wasn't professional nervousness. It was fear. Fear that something would be discovered. "Peterson," Marcus said in a dangerously low voice, "are you denying me access to my own company's recordings?" While waiting for access to the security system, Marcus noticed how the other employees avoided looking directly at Isaiah. How the supervisors whispered among themselves when they thought he wasn't looking. How everyone seemed to have a well-rehearsed version of the facts about Diana Washington. But what caught his attention most was the gleam in Isaiah's eyes, not from fear or confusion, but from a quiet determination that seemed strange in someone so young. As if he knew something that adults couldn't imagine a child could understand. What none of them knew was that that night in the snow would be just the beginning of an investigation that would reveal systematic racial corruption schemes within Coleman Industries. Schemes that would destroy careers, bring down fortunes, and prove that sometimes justice comes through the innocent eyes of those we least expect. If this story of corruption and prejudice has piqued your curiosity, be sure to subscribe to the channel to find out how a CEO would discover that his own company was hiding secrets that would tarnish his reputation forever. The security room smelled of mold and cheap disinfectant. Diana Washington sat in a plastic chair, handcuffs on her wrists, her eyes swollen from crying. But when she saw Isaiah running toward her, something changed in her gaze, a mixture of relief and terror. "Isaiah, my love," she whispered, kissing her son's forehead as the handcuffs jingled. "What are you doing here?" Marcus watched the scene in silence. Something was deeply wrong here. A woman accused of stealing industrial chemicals did not display the defensiveness or nervousness typical of someone caught red-handed. Diana seemed resigned, as if she had been expecting this. "Mr. Peterson," Marcus said, his voice cutting through the cold air in the room, "I want to see the recordings. Now." Peterson shifted uncomfortably among the papers. "Sir, as I said, it's protocol. Perhaps it would be best to let the legal department." "Peterson." Marcus turned fully toward him, and something in his tone made the man take half a step back. "You have 10 seconds to take me to those recordings, or you'll have to explain to the board why you're preventing the CEO from accessing his own company's information." 5 minutes later, in the monitoring room, Marcus watched the recordings from the previous night. What he saw made his stomach churn. Diana was alone in the warehouse, organizing supplies, clearly part of her normal duties. Then Peterson appeared, accompanied by 2 guards. They talked briefly, and Diana shook her head vigorously, pointing to a clipboard. Peterson snatched the clipboard from her hands and signaled to the guards. "Where's the audio?" Marcus asked. "The audio system was having problems in that area," Peterson replied quickly. "Very convenient." Marcus continued watching. Diana was trying to explain something, gesturing toward the boxes around her. Peterson pointed to a specific one that Diana clearly hadn't touched. The guards pushed her against the wall and began searching her belongings. "Interesting," Marcus muttered. "She was working normally and was approached by you. Not the other way around." Peterson was sweating cold now. "Sir, there are details that aren't clear in the recordings." "What details?" "Well, there were previous complaints about Diana. Petty theft, insubordination." "Complaints from whom?" "Several supervisors. It's all documented." Marcus picked up his phone and called HR. "I need Diana Washington's complete file in 5 minutes. Everything. Evaluations, warnings, complaints." He hung up and stared at Peterson. "Let's see what documentation you have." While they waited, Marcus noticed Isaiah watching everything in absolute silence. For a 7-year-old, he showed a disturbing maturity. As if he had seen adults lying before. The file arrived by email. Marcus read aloud, "Diana Washington. 7 years with the company. Consistently above average evaluations. Perfect punctuality. No formal warnings until," he paused, checking the date. "Until 3 months ago." Peterson cleared his throat. "As I said, recent problems. 3 warnings in 3 months, all for insubordination and inappropriate attitude." Marcus looked directly at Peterson. "All signed by you. Curious how a model employee for 7 years suddenly became problematic, just when you were promoted to night supervisor." Marcus's phone vibrated. A message from his assistant, "Mr. Coleman, I checked as requested. Peterson was hired 4 months ago. He came recommended by the board, specifically by Mr. Hartwell. Richard Hartwell. Board member, known for his subtle comments about maintaining standards in the company." Marcus was beginning to understand the bigger picture. "Peterson, I want you to explain something to me." Marcus showed him the screen of his cell phone. "How does an employee who has never had any problems in 7 years suddenly need to be investigated for theft under your supervision?" Peterson opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. "Sir, perhaps we should discuss this in private." "Actually," said a soft voice behind them, "I think Isaiah has something to say about that." Everyone turned around. Isaiah had approached silently, holding a small toy recorder, one of those that children use to play journalist. "My mom gave me this to record stories," Isaiah said, his voice steady despite his 7 years. "But last night, when she didn't come back, I came back here looking for her. And I recorded what Mr. Peterson said on the phone." Peterson turned completely pale. Isaiah pressed play. Peterson's voice echoed through the room, "Yes, sir, it's done. The troublesome black woman has been neutralized. As you said, sometimes you have to take preventive measures before they start giving ideas to the others." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus looked at Peterson, who was trying to find words to explain himself. He looked at Diana, who had closed her eyes as if she could finally breathe. And he looked at Isaiah, who held the tape recorder with the seriousness of someone who perfectly understands the power of evidence. "Mr. Peterson," Marcus said, his voice dangerously calm, "I think we have a lot to talk about. But first, Isaiah, could you tell me what else you know about these preventative measures?" The smile that crossed the boy's face was anything but innocent. It was that of someone who had spent months gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. What none of them knew was that that child's tape recorder contained much more than a conversation. Isaiah had documented weeks of secret meetings, specific names of board members, and a systematic plan to eliminate black employees who threatened the company culture. Sometimes justice comes through the most innocent eyes and the sharpest minds. But what Peterson and his superiors didn't yet know was that underestimating a 7-year-old would be the least of the mistakes they would make on that cold night. Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus Coleman would discover that Coleman Industries had become something he never